Welcome to Too Long Didn't Read Dota News, and we're going to talk about some organizational changes, a wrap-up of ESL 1 Genting, and go over all of the new rosters. So Good Game Agency used to own both Evil Geniuses and Alliance. GGA was owned by Twitch and Amazon, and there were a lot of people not really comfortable with that because Twitch sponsors a lot of events that these teams were competing in. So as of, I believe, December, both Evil Geniuses and Alliance are cut ties. They're no longer a part of Good Game Agency. That was dissolved. And the teams are each player-owned now. So while Evil Geniuses has a lot of players in different esports, the Evil Geniuses brand is owned by, I think, the Dota players, and then the Alliance brand is owned by the original Alliance TI3 winning team. And then for EG, the CEO is PPD. Recently, now this is non-Dota related, but very recently PPD did announce that they are dropping their entire StarCraft division, and then they cut down their fighting games division. So losing a few players there and only adding in one. So that is downsized. So the next new cool thing that has to do with esports organizations, there's a new org. It is from a prominent football club over in Europe that has decided to start up a gaming section. It's going to be headed up by Malk, and so it's called North, and they've acquired a CSGO squad, a Danish one of the best ones, and reportedly by the TSM owner, he stated that the CSGO players are individually, so they're each getting a salary of $20,000 a month to play. So this is the highest salary team, and this is a professional sports club that's investing a lot of money into esports. And some of the interviews and their statements that they released said that they're looking to get into Dota. So they picked up a Danish CSGO squad. However, they could be picking up a Dota CSGO or a Danish Dota squad, which would lead us to think about Imperial, who recently dropped their roster of Danish pros. And so they could be picking up Imperial, but with the kind of money that they're looking to invest, they could also be thinking about poaching one of the, stronger Dota teams from an existing org if they want to really get into esports and kind of jumpstart things. The Imperial squad is being sponsored by Cloud9. If you don't know who Imperial are, they are a Danish team. They won their groups for WESG, and they have been kind of doing okay. They're sort of like Adfinem. They've been playing on the fringes, winning some online tournaments, but never really qualifying for anything. So hopefully with a sponsor, less things to worry about, we might see them climb up in the scene. So the Kiev European qualifiers will be interesting to see if they can make it in. So for a tournament that is coming up soon, this weekend, January 6th to 8th, is ESL 1 Genting. And last night was the first day of ESL 1 Genting, where we had both group stages start off. So the way it worked is there were best of ones between the teams in each group, and Newbie and Virtus Pro won their best of ones in Group A, and DC and Wings won their best of ones in Group B. And then those teams face off against each other, and then Newbie won up against VP 2-1, so they get an automatic seat right into the playoff bracket, and then DC beat Wings 2-1 as well, so they are also seated automatically into the playoff brackets. On that left, MP, Fnatic, and Virtus Pro in Group A to fight for the second spot in the playoff bracket, and then WG Unity, Execration, and Wings in Group B to fight for the other remaining spot in the playoff bracket. So first round of games last night, we saw NP versus Fnatic. NP won 2-0, although Game 2 was certainly one of those stressful ones, which ended in a result where NP didn't even take any barracks. They just proceeded straight for the tier 4s as soon as they could, and the game, a little bit of a heart attack game that was, so that was fun. As far as WG Unity versus Execration, that was a 2-1 to Execration. They won that game, and then from then NP went on to play up against VP. Unfortunately, they were not able to win either game, so VP took the second place spot in Group A, moving into the playoff bracket where they will face up against, I believe, DC. And then Wings played Execration, also 2-0'd them, so it'll be Wings versus Newbie. So we saw Newbie face up against Wings and DC play against VP. So the DC VP game was pretty cut and dry. DC took a quick, easy 2-0 up against VP. Newbie won in the DC Wings game, but it was a little bit more of a struggle. They ended up going 2-1 with the third game stretching out just over 60 minutes. So pretty long game, hard fought, Newbie winning in the end. That left us with Newbie versus DC for the best of 5 grand finals. So while Wings were able to beat DC's Meepo earlier in the group stages, Newbie were not so confident, and if you check it out, they banned Meepo in every single game up against DC, not wanting to deal with the Weehaw Meepo. DC had their own bans against them. They banned Drow every single game up against Newbie. They really didn't want to deal with that at all. And games were pretty back and forth. This was actually the first 5-game series, but it went to 5 games that we've had in quite some time. And it actually looked like Newbie almost was going to take it at a game 4 with some cheeky plays.
Newbie just kept going. Now it's going to be DC forced to go for...
Oh, it's the rift. It's the rift. It's coming smack down.
Here comes the epicenter.
The epicenter from
Oh, he canceled it.
Oh, wait.
Nice
no.
bait.
So the epicenter is wasted, and now Newbie are going to go in through the bottom. They're attacking into the tier 3 tower. KP just mind games them. With no epicenter, DC may not have to damage at all.
Now, DC managed to hang on and come back and win that series. And if we take a look at their general games in general, Newbie surprisingly, despite what we see as a huge Radiant advantage in pubs in patch 7 right now, Newbie has this preference for Dire, playing a lot of their other matches in 7 on Dire and doing quite well at these in DPL especially. And DC sort of switched things around for the last few games of this series where DC chose to play Dire and force Newbie to play Radiant, and in the end this ended up working out really well for DC as they took home their first trophy, winning ESL 1 Genting and $125,000 with that. Now moving on from our kind of tournament wrap up, we do have some roster news. So roster is officially locked at midnight on the 8th / the 9th, depending on how you determine that. But they're locked as of Sunday evening, and teams can no longer make any changes. And notably, Fnatic was missing from the list of confirmed teams. They had a roster at ESL, so we expected them to lock that roster in. But they released a post today that Yamate and In Your Dream will be departing from Fnatic for different reasons, and now that ESL 1 is concluded. So Fnatic does not currently have an active roster. So should they pull one together, they will have to play through the open qualifiers for the Kiev Major. Now next up, MVP Phoenix has been a big name in Dota for a while now, representing Southeast Asia, doing incredibly well at all the major tournaments last year. I believe placing top 6, maybe even top 4 in several of them. But unfortunately, their players have scattered. So the team has disbanded and will not be registering a new MVP Phoenix for the upcoming season. And other notable teams are absent from major registration. Wings Gaming does not appear to have any players registered currently. You search for their ID and they're not showing up. Now, we assume they've made no changes to their team. And what happens with the new drop lock system is that if you do not go into Dota and confirm your team's participation, then everybody will be automatically dropped from the roster. So this is to make sure that people don't get stuck on a roster they don't want to be stuck on. So everybody will be dropped unless the individual players themselves confirm they want to stay. And then even if you miss the drop deadline, you drop all your players, you can go back and re-add your players to create a team even once the drop period has ended. But it seems that Wings has done nothing. So it remains to be seen what's happening with that roster. But TI Champion Team currently does not exist in the Dota registration site. Another team that also has not registered is Complexity. So Complexity has not yet released a statement about this, neither has Wings. And so we've seen these two teams might be looking at open qualifiers for the upcoming season. Now, in terms of teams who actually did manage to register, Empire has announced their new roster yet again, so locking them in for spring. We'll see if they can find any success with that. And then eHome has also announced their roster as well. So far, no roster changes have been confirmed for several teams, the ones that I'm aware of, NP, of course. Evil Geniuses, Alliance, DC, Secret, and OG have all released official statements that they will not be changing rosters. In interesting news, PPD has announced a new squad that he will be playing on called Wanted. And this squad is going to have Chessie, who was previously on Cole, QO, MVP, Boris, who he played for Team Freedom, but other than that, nobody knows anything about him, Jo, who used to be on Archon, and then, of course, PPD as captain. Now, he has stated that this is going to be a part-time squad that, you know, will play a few tournaments, maybe qualify for Kiev or the Major, or TI. So, it's interesting to see. These are some pretty big names for a part-time squad. And this is a part-time NA squad where PPD is the CEO of Evil Geniuses, who is an NA team who will probably go into the Kiev Major that this team will be trying to qualify for and compete at. So draw what conclusions you will from this interesting development. And other news about new teams. Demon has departed from Southeast Asia but brought a little bit of it with him, forming a team with Mason, who notably played with EG at TI4, Balba, who was recently on Liquid for a short amount of time, and then Dubu, who was on MVP Phoenix, so that's bringing with him from Southeast Asia. And Abed is joining Demon's team that I mentioned last time to finish out the roster for their full 5-man team. Just a reminder, he used to play on Execration and is no longer playing with them. Now, speaking of Team Liquid, after they failed to qualify for Boston, Balba left the team, and they were playing with this guy named GH as a stand-in. So his signature heroes, I believe, were Rubik and Wisp. We saw a lot of them during the Dream League games when Liquid was playing a lot. And so they've officially added him to their roster, and that's who they'll be playing with moving forward and hoping to qualify for Kiev. And then more new rosters. Fada has come out of his retirement. That was short-lived. And he's going to be playing with 343, Forev, Yapzor, and Firo. So this will be another team, assuming European, that we'll see coming out of the woodwork to try and play for Kiev and then any other tournaments we have coming up. Na'Vi has announced their new roster, and it's going to have Pycat, who most recently played with Four Clovers and Leprechaun, RNM, who was on Fantastic 5, and Biver, who has been playing on Pro Dota for a little while, joining Dendi and General to round out the squad. Now, Na'Vi, a name obviously that we all know quite well, has been struggling quite a bit, I would say since maybe even TI4 times, if you want to go back that far. They really haven't managed to find their groove. They've had a lot of roster changes, tried out different captains, different team compositions. And this is the first time they've tried reaching outside of CIS to fill out their roster. So Biver and Pycat, both non-CIS players. So this is new for Na'Vi. So maybe the DC type formula will work out for them. And the roster is now unnamed currently, and it's going to be Hani, Syndran, Koikva, Trixie, and Era all playing together. Rather reminiscent of the old Fnatic EU that we remember. So we'll have to see if an organization such as the North picks them up, or if they remain independent, or who they'll end up going with. And to give you guys a preview on what tournaments we have coming up, WESG starts soon. Just a reminder, this is a tournament composed of nation teams rather than team teams. So everybody has to be from the same nation. They competed in qualifiers all over the world, and they're coming together for the grand finals in China. So that's running from January 12th to 15th. Up next after that is Dota Pit, that's in January as well, should be the weekend afterwards, and that tournament will take place in Croatia. After that, we wait a month until unless something else is announced, but we're waiting a month until Star Ladder I Series Season 3, which is in Shanghai. And then after that, DAC Season 2, we presume will be happening sometime this spring, also in Shanghai. And then, of course, we have the Kiev Major. And for our last little piece of news, kind of a bit of a public service announcement. If you didn't know, Dota TV caster audio has been broken because of the Big 7 update. Valve is aware of it. They're working on fixing it. But, you know, go Twitch Master Race. If you want caster audio, you won't be able to hear it in-game. So thank you for watching. That's it for our weekly wrap-up of Dota news.